London, we have a deal, but just how much will it cost Theresa May? Weekend Business Report starts right now. Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Keneal Gale. Thanks so much for joining us this week. After months of negotiating, it looks like we finally have a Brexit deal. However, not everyone in the UK is excited about what's in it. We'll tell you more about that in a bit, but right now here are some of the week's top stories from the BATV News Desk. Knowledge process outsourcing, that's one way Prime Minister Andrew Holness hopes to help provide more high-end jobs for Jamaicans in the business process outsourcing industry. Mr. Holness addressed stakeholders on Tuesday at the inauguration of KPMG's new nearshore shared services facility on Harbour Street in downtown Kingston. Jamila Maitland tells us more.
Jamaica's business process outsourcing sector is venturing into new territory. Audit, tax and advisory company KPMG is spearheading what's being called knowledge process outsourcing. In welcoming the new opportunities, Prime Minister Andrew Holness said the move by KPMG fits well into the government's plans.
The government of Jamaica stands in support of business process outsourcing, and we will make the necessary investments to ensure that there is the flow of human resources to support the continued development and expansion of that industry. And the second thing is that we recognize that the industry will evolve and it will change as technology evolves and change. And therefore, we are going to be investing in the higher order services to ensure that Jamaica continues to be an attractive destination for business process outsourcing services.
Managing partner at KPMG Jamaica, Tyrone Handa, says the KPMG Jamaica Extended Support Services, KJS, is expected to employ only 250 people initially at the Kingston location. However, he says the business will expand into Montego Bay soon.
The last demand forecast I saw showed a clear path to 250 new KPMG jobs created by this outsourcing initiative between August 2016 and July 2019. Thereafter, we project an investment in a new facility in Montego Bay to meet the projected staff count for KPMG JES of 425 by 2022. This will take KPMG's aggregate footprint in Jamaica to over 800 by 2022 across all lines of our business here: audit, tax, advisory, and now outsourcing.
And firm controller of KPMG LLP in the United States, Joseph Arena, explained that the KJS was a pilot test for nearshore services between the US and Jamaica. But he says the service proved to be a great investment, which he attributed to Jamaica's ease of doing business.
Working together with a Jamaican firm allowed the U.S. firm to expand our support model to include a nearshore center. That was our first goal. However, I found a unique cultural fit between both firms. I felt as if I was working with individuals who were part of the U.S. firm. We shared common beliefs, values, and objectives, not just in business, but in everyday life. There was a connection that broke down barriers of communication and gave the ability for all of us to trust one another and to do what was right for both organizations.
Telecommunications provider Flow has filed an injunction against the National Works Agency, NWA, China Harbour Engineering Company, CHEC, and the government of Jamaica in relation to roadworks being done to upgrade the 3 miles Hagley Park area in St. Andrew. In September, the company told BATV News that it has lost some $42 million in damages as a result of roadworks in the corporate area. The company said most of the sum incurred came from damaged cables due to the roadworks. Several Flow customers within the affected areas have been without internet service since the construction began. Members of Parliament's Public Administration and Appropriation Committee, PAAC, are foreseeing a clash between the planned development of the Vernon Field Aerotropolis and the recently privatized Norman Manley International Airport. PAAC member Philip Paulwell is arguing that Jamaica doesn't have the capacity to have both. Sashana Small has more.
The Jamaica Special Economic Zone Authority appeared before Wednesday morning's PAAC sitting to discuss projects it oversees. The development of the Gansu Industrial Park in St. Elizabeth was met with much applause, but PAAC members were skeptical about the development of the Vernon Field Aerotropolis. PAAC member Philip Paulwell said the Vernon Field Aerotropolis will be doing the same thing that the now privatized Norman Manley International Airport is setting out to do.
It is my understanding that the operators, new operators, do envisage an airport that is much different from what we now have. An expanded runway, the fact that we now have the North-South Highway, we want to see millions of people using Norman Manley, but we also want to see cargo, because that's the only way Norman Manley is going to be viable.
Member Paulwell cautioned the government about the amount of money it's spending on this project, especially since the development of Norman Manley International Airport has so much potential.
Caution on the expenditures being made, because remember now, Norman Manley is also to facilitate the Port Royal project, because we want Port Royal to become eventually a home port for cruise shippers. And Norman Manley would be the place where people land to board their ships. So the potential there is vast, but we don't want it to be hampered by misfocus.
Additionally, Philip Paulwell raised concerns about the potential legal issues that the government may have to contend with from the Norman Manley International Airport investors.
I know that you might run up against some legal issues with the new owners if they believe that what they have purchased or bought into in any way will not materialize because of competing projects.
But Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Audley Swell, pointed out that a feasibility study was done before and there will be no clash.
The feasibility study was done and it pointed out that there should not be any passenger operation at Vernon Field because it would affect the viability of passenger load at Norman Manley. And as a result, that was one of the terms of the agreement. So we don't foresee that there'll be any clash.
Moving on now, Theresa May is defiantly defending the draft Brexit deal, saying she will see it through. The British Prime Minister says she will deliver a Brexit for the British people to honour their vote in the referendum.
There are bad days and then there are days like the Prime Minister had today. Cabinet resignations assaulted from all sides for her historic Brexit plan. So she summoned the press together to say,
serving in high office is an honour and privilege. It is also a heavy responsibility.
Yes, it sounded like she was about to quit, but far from it. For her, it's Brexit deal or bust.
I believe that this is a deal which does deliver that, which is in the national interest. And am I going to see this through? Yes.
Prime Minister, you've said that your deal is in the national interest, but your party is deeply divided on it, perhaps more divided than any of us have ever seen. Are you prepared to risk the breakup of your party?
Members of Parliament across my party will look at that deal, will recognise the importance of delivering on the vote of the British people.
Well, one member of her own government, quite an important one, the minister actually in charge of Brexit, looked at that deal last night and couldn't stomach it. He quit rather than turn up for work.
Well, I felt the proposed deal with the EU suffered two fatal flaws. The first one is the rather predatory terms being proposed by the EU, which I feel would threaten the integrity of the United Kingdom. And secondly, in relation to the so-called backstop, basically what that would do is indefinitely, if not permanently, lock us into a regime which I believe would be damaging to the economy but devastating for public trust in our democracy.
Now, the normal etiquette after a resignation is that Tories are nice to each other. Well, the old rules don't apply.
I'm not taking lessons on standing up for our United Kingdom from carpetbaggers. I'm not impressed by his latter-day commitment to the Union. I'm sure this is more about manoeuvring and leadership.
Morning, Minister. Are you going to resign?
This Brexiter, the Work and Pensions Secretary Esther McVey, was tipped to quit after she broke all the rules at Wednesday's Cabinet meeting by asking for a show of hands to show how many ministers hate the PM's Brexit plan. And quit she duly did, saying in her resignation letter that the deal you put before the Cabinet yesterday doesn't honour the result of the referendum. Indeed, it doesn't meet the tests you set from the outset of your premiership. She said, I cannot defend this and I cannot vote for this deal. The PM, here driving to the Commons, also saw 5 other members from her more junior team quit.
The Prime Minister.
But when she spoke to MPs, she warned what the consequences would be of rejecting her plan, although not all MPs were even remotely scared.
We can choose to leave with no deal, we can risk no Brexit at all, or we can choose...
The government must now withdraw this half-baked deal, which is clear does not have the backing of the Cabinet, this Parliament, or the country as a whole.
Then from her own side, one after another, Brexiters and Remainers lined up to savage her.
This backstop is completely intolerable, and I feel confident that even in the unlikely event that legislation for it reaches this House, it will be ferociously opposed.
The harsh, cruel truth of it is that this is not the promised deal.
These 585 pages are a testament to broken promises.
And furious DUP MPs from Northern Ireland seem close to terminating their alliance with the Tories that allows her to govern.
The choice is now clear. We stand up for the United Kingdom, the whole of the United Kingdom, the integrity of the United Kingdom, or we vote for a vassal state with the breakup of the United Kingdom.
So one of the Tory Brexit rebels, their leader in fact, said the time had come for the party to depose the Prime Minister, and he's written a letter withdrawing his confidence in her.
This is about not having confidence in the current leader and believing that the deal simply does not work.
Now, by tomorrow, enough Tory MPs, 48 or more, may well have written similar letters, and she'll have to win a vote of MPs to survive. This former minister could replace her.
If we don't deliver the Brexit that the British people voted for, then the British people will punish us. They'll probably punish the entire political class, but they'll particularly punish the government.
And as if the Prime Minister hasn't suffered enough, her Brexiter Agriculture Secretary, one of the original leaders of the Leave campaign, Michael Gove, is tonight agonising about whether also to quit. Robert Peston, News at 10.
Company news comes up next. Then later, cleaning up space. Scientists devise a plan to get rid of millions of pieces of space junk. That's in the final segment of the show. More WBR after this break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. Here's this week's company news.
The Jamaica Public Service JPS company says since the start of the year, they've invested some US $116 million in projects to advance the company's technology and equipment. The power company says the advancements will improve the system's reliability. JPS says their US $2.6 million voltage standardization project in St. Andrew and St. Anne has resulted in better power quality and reliability. Upon completion, the company says Ultra-Rios and its environs will benefit from a more robust grid and improved power supply. Other investments include the US $21.6 million construction of an energy storage facility at Hunts Bay, St. Andrew, which when completed will act as a battery backup when fluctuations in power supply occur. Grace Kennedy is reporting over $73 billion in revenues for the third quarter. The company says it's also on a transformational journey aimed at improving performance and shareholder value. The company says it's also restructuring to meet the demands of the changing environment. This has resulted in some positions being rationalized, expanded, or new roles created. However, the costs of doing this has impacted the quarter's performance. In the meantime, the company says it expects construction of its new corporate headquarters in downtown Kingston to be completed at the end of the year, and plans are in place to have its staff relocated by the first quarter of 2019. The 9 months up to September 2018 haven't been so good for Dolphin Cove. The company saw drops in profits of almost 30%. Dolphin Cove says this was due to the negative impacts of the state of public emergency in St. James and changes in the Royal Caribbean itineraries. Meanwhile, during the period, their operations at Half Moon Hotel closed for the hotel's renovation. They also began operations at a facility at Puerto Rico, which they hope will help them rebound from the loss in revenues from Half Moon.
Let's now take a look at the closing numbers from the major stock markets around the world. When we come back, more of the week's top stories from the BATV News Desk, so stay with us. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. More news now. A special parliamentary committee will be set up to address concerns being raised about the new Integrity Commission. Jamila Maitland has more.
If you are not the expression of our national concern, then whose responsibility is it to express national concern?
Dr. Peter Phillips has called for the special committee to be established as part of the Integrity Commission Act to find out why a permanent appointment wasn't made for someone to lead the country's Integrity Commission. The commission recently announced that Colonel Daniel Price was appointed as interim director to lead for a one-year period.
It is a concern that we have with how the new organization is getting up to speed in the face of the urgencies of the moment. And therefore I would recommend, Mr. Speaker, that this House cause the appropriate committee to meet and inquire of the chairman.
The opposition leader argued that while the commission is independent, the temporary appointment of many of its directors for long periods creates speculations. He said this is an issue the Prime Minister should address.
Having a slew of temporary or interim appointees in the face of this slew of allegations of possibly corrupt behavior in a welter of institutions which now fall directly to the Prime Minister's responsibility does not inspire confidence.
However, Prime Minister Holness pointed out that the commission is less than a year old and therefore must be given the chance to create its own governance structure.
I agree with the point that where there are offices that are established for the security of the tenure of the holder, that you should not have interim appointments lasting for any long period of time, and if they can be avoided, they should be avoided. But bear in mind the particulars of the circumstances. This is a new institution trying to establish itself. This House should give it support. I will agree with you that it has taken a little while. But bear in mind as well, Leader of the Opposition, it took us 2 governments and 2 terms to get to this point.
Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw says the government is working to have Money Musk Sugar Factory in Clarendon reopened. He says this involves enticing investors. Here's more.
The Agriculture Minister says the government has several investors who are interested in the Money Musk Sugar Factory. He says these investors are looking at ways to diversify the industry. Minister Shaw says this would be beneficial to the industry and ultimately the economy.
So I am giving you the commitment. I'm going to work hard to have Money Musk open because I see the practicality of it. I see the economics of it. Now, in doing that, one of the models, by the way, that I am not ruling out, because right now we have several serious investors, including one of them at the very top, who is very, very serious. And that investor wants Money Musk and the throne.
He also shared that the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, JMEA, the Sugar Industry Authority and his ministry are in dialogue to find ways to introduce refined sugar on the market.
I can announce today that these 3 groups are currently in dialogue. We'll continue to work towards finalizing a mutually acceptable solution for the importation and regulation of refined sugar, and where there is illicit importation of sugar, we have to cut it out.
But he says in the meantime, his ministry is working on ways to save the ailing sugar industry.
Such as packaged sugar, as I mentioned before, increased supplies to CARICOM and other regional markets. Positive discussions are also underway with interested parties for Money Musk and Long Pond in the medium to long term. And I want to add here, not in my script, but I'm going to add it too, that we're not taking foam out of those discussions.
As developers rise to Prime Minister Andrew Holness's charge of creating a Miami-like skyline in Kingston, Associate Professor of Urban and Regional Planning at the University of Technology, UTech, Dr. Carol Archer, is urging them not to lose the city's creativity in the process. More in this report.
Dr. Archer argues that the people who probably won't be able to afford the apartments in these high-rise buildings are at the heart of the city's creativity.
So when you look at communities such as Southside, and we talk about Kingston being the creative city, where I worked with my class, community development, and we took the students to Southside. And they were, just blown away by the resilience of the people.
So she wants the developers to consult with them.
So I want again to impress upon the decision makers and the technocrats to ensure that the voice and the vision of the people are included in the decision-making process. So when you have a Southside where the residents can be part of the creative arts industry, we are videotaping from all over the world. Are filmed there. Same with Trenchtown. Let us ensure that the activities, the decisions, the implementation of ideas take into consideration this Kingston creative cities, all the voices of the people.
When we come back, millions of pieces of space junk on the loose. We'll tell you what solutions some scientists are proposing. More on that after this break. Welcome back to Weekend Business Report. A team of scientists in Australia are preparing to fire high-powered lasers into space to blast some of the 170 million pieces of man-made debris orbiting the Earth. Here's more.
We've been launching things and people into space since 1957. Satellites for your favourite programs, spacecraft to explore the unknown, people to take our first steps. And in the more than 60 years of space exploration, we've managed to leave behind around 170 million bits of junk.
To give you a sense of just how big the problem is, take a look at this graph from scientists at the University of Texas. These orange dots are functioning satellites orbiting the Earth every day. Everything else, the sea of pink, the blue, is debris. Junk, basically. Some of it's tiny, some of it's as big as a bus. All of it's hurtling around the Earth at speeds in excess of 27,000 kilometres an hour, crisscrossing at different orbits and on a potential collision course with the things and people that we want up there.
Scientists warn it has the potential to create a string of catastrophic, even unstoppable collisions that could render parts of space unusable. NASA scientist Donald Kessler first identified the scenario 30 years ago. Scientists have been trying to come up with ways to clean up after ourselves ever since.
Kessler predicted that when the population density of space debris reaches a certain point, it will start to collide with itself and start to multiply by itself. And we're seeing the beginnings of that. We're seeing an increase in the number of satellite collisions, so we're up to 3 or 4 a year now. The best minds on the planet in this domain think we have another 10 years. We could be very lucky and have 20 years or 25. We could be very unlucky and it could happen tomorrow.
Scientists are making progress with innovative ways to clear the clutter, but none of it's ready to launch just yet. That's where a new use of well-established laser technology comes in. A team in Australia, working with experts from around the world, is preparing to fire high-powered lasers to blast space debris away to a safer orbit.
Yes, it is rather cool using super high-powered lasers to gently nudge, and I emphasise gently nudge space debris from one orbit to another. We don't have the solution for space debris now, but we have the means to reduce the scale of the problem and defer the doomsday event so we get more time.
Space-based laser technology dates back to the 1970s and now has a myriad of applications that already make a real difference to us down here on Earth. But it's this latest use of laser ranging technology to clean up the cosmic junkyard around our planet that's capturing global attention. It's the biggest clean-up effort ever seen, in this corner of the universe at least. Miriam Nahond, Al Jazeera.
And that's our show for this week. On a programming note, we're off next week. So on behalf of the entire Weekend Business Report team, I'm Keneal. See you next time.